this wee woman come up and she stood, and she took it and she just goes, "That's rotten. Don't like that. That's rotten." But she didn't go away, and then she stood. And as I am giving out her sample to people, she was standing, "Won't you like it? If it was rotten, give me another one, son." Just that. She must have had 5 or 6 she left blocked.
Right, welcome back to another episode of the Here's the Craic podcast. We have a guest on today. I think this is one of, you think you're our second guest in person.
Wow.
We done a pile of guests virtually, but you're our second guest in a while. He's come on in person. So, a big thank you for coming on.
Honoured and privileged to be here.
Yeah. So we've got Gerry White on the podcast. Gerry is the owner of Jawbox Gin and the founder of Jawbox Gin. So very happy to have you on.
Yes,
I'm sweating.
Here, guys.
I see you've got Coke on the table. Ronaldo.
That's one of your favourite.
Drink responsibly. Thank you very much for coming on, taking the time to come on with us. We met up with you there a wee while ago and had a wee chat about just general stuff, and some of the stuff you said was class, so I'm going to just sort of delve into a few of that stuff. So I think the main bit to start off is how did Jawbox come about? How did it all begin for you?
I suppose to go right back to the start, I've always been a gin drinker. Mm-hmm. The only spirit I've actually ever enjoyed drinking was gin, and I've tried vodka, I've tried whiskey, and it just didn't work for me. Didn't have the palate for them. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I'm back till me possibly below the age, underage drinking days, hanging about with the mates, and we all would have went out. I would have been 18, and get into pubs and all, and mates, pint of Guinness, pint of Hart. What do you want, Jay? And I go, "I love a wee gin and tonic." And you would go, "Ways up," and that asked me that, because it was never seen. It was actually always seen as a wee old woman's drink. Whether it made you cry but I just really like the taste of it. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, love a good pint of Guinness. Thoroughly enjoy a pint of Honeycomb, like a glass of wine. But the only spirit, for some reason, that's only ever really enjoyed drinking was gin. So that was always there from the start. And then anytime I would have travelled, it was really lovely to try gins from different countries and that sort of thing. So I was going away, we would do that. Mm-hmm. I've been working in the bar game for over 33 years now. I've been in the bar game. Started when I was 5. So obviously working in the bar trade and working with gins and spirits. And then one day I was just getting close to that age where, if you don't do something, you'll never do it. Yeah. And I had the idea to bring out my own brand of gin. Mm-hmm. And when I'd done more research, everybody I looked at that had brought out their own brand was either a multi-millionaire or worked in the city in London, or their family was in the business. So I sort of put it on the back burner. And then as I was getting on, I went, you know what? If I don't give this a go, I'll always regret it, whether it works or not. Yeah. And I would rather regret it not working than never giving it a go. Yeah. So I thought of the name. The name actually came from conversations I would have had with my grandmother, because I always remember my granny saying, if we were kids and watching TV, and my granny would come and say, you watch too much TV or whatever. And in my day, we all sat around the Jawbox. I go, "Granny, what are you on about?" So the name the Jawbox was the colloquial nickname for the Belfast sink. Mm-hmm. And back in the day when people sort of maybe hadn't the money to go out so much, they would have gathered around the scullery, mostly hanging out in the kitchen, because it would have been the warmest room in the house. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so they all would have gathered in the kitchen around the sink and told their stories, shared their tales, whatever, all the jokes, all the crack was around the sink. Yeah. So because all the crack and the talking around the sink, the Belfast sink got the nickname the Jawbox, because people were just all gathered around it. Yeah. And I just thought, well, whenever I was thinking of Jawbox and creating a brand, I never wanted to create a brand that give the image of somebody sitting on their own in a wee corner, or I wanted it like a group of fellas like us sitting here, group of friends enjoying a drink, sharing them same stories, telling the same tales, celebrating, commiserating over a drink.
In the kitchen too now.
In the kitchen
just as we are.
So that's how the name came about and how it all started.
Yeah. I think the branding is something that we kind of wanted to talk about as well, but maybe get into that a wee bit later. But one thing we were talking about just before you came was the sort of thing where you hear a lot of like entrepreneurial stories are starting whenever they're like 16, 17 or something, but obviously like you would say you're started a wee bit later. Did you feel
no, I mean, I'll be honest with you, whenever I was about 16, 17, I'd had a few goes at other businesses. I used to have my own magazine, and this would have been when I was about 18. It was folk music magazine.
Right.
And then when we were doing the magazine, people would have asked us, what do you do in a magazine? Have a wee band, you do posters.
What was it called, the magazine?
It was called Pure Folk Magazine.
Right.
And the company was called Leprechaun Promotions.
Right.
And the reason I called it Leprechaun Promotions was because it was a small business and I was trying to get a small business grant, and I thought that would have helped. I quickly learned that calling the business Leprechaun Promotions was maybe not the best idea, because when you were ringing up and people would say, where are you from? And you would go, I'm from Leprechaun Promotions, and they would go, yeah, dead on. Nobody really took you serious. But I mean, we don't quit. I mean, we managed concerts. I don't know if you've ever heard of a band called Moving Arts.
No.
Way back it was a Christy Moore band. We managed Clonard. We managed a brilliant band called Half Foot. So really exciting. We had that for about 4 years, 3 or 4 years, maybe a bit more even. And it was really exciting because as it grew, then we were setting up tours for bands. Now, being very young and being new to running businesses, instead of staying in the office and doing the work that needed to be done, we went on tour with the bands, which wasn't the most sensible thing to do, but it was brilliant crack, and we learned a lot from it. So, and then when I was very young, when I left school at 15, I'd done as everybody does, is your mom makes you do a trade, and I was a plasterer by trade, so then I started my own plastering company called Decoplast.
Right.
But I quickly learned I was a crap plasterer and wasn't very good at it. And then it's plus the fact that it's really, really hard work.
Yeah.
Like an electrician can go in, a joiner can go in and do a job, and they can stop, have a cup of tea. Once you start plastering, you can't leave it till that sets.
Yeah.
And if you're doing ceilings, it has to be one of the most difficult, strenuous, hard work in the whole building game. So, and as I say, I wasn't very good at it. So I'd always had that sort of entrepreneurial spirit. But back then, things being what they were, Belfast was a completely different place then, and my parents were very sort of old-fashioned, and they were, no, you have to be in a job, you have to be in a proper job, and go out and earn a living. And they didn't see that I was in some ways ahead of my time. Like when I was running the promotions agency, I was driving a brand new car. Nobody in our family had ever drove a brand new car. Yeah. And I thought this is a massive achievement. Yeah. But you were sort of, you were just got a wee clip and place up to yourself. So but it was a brilliant experience. And then I say, but I loved working in hospitality, really. So then I went, you know what, I'm really enjoying this. Built myself up till it was the last pub I worked in was the John Hewitt, which I absolutely adored working in. Absolutely fantastic pub, because it's running a very sort of ethical, social sort of, what do you call that word, social enterprise. Yeah. So all the money that raised, all the profits raised for the pub goes into sort of social community projects and that sort of thing. So it gave you a brilliant feeling. You knew it wasn't getting just to somebody's back pocket. So you were helping fund different community groups and different projects. So that was brilliant. You were doing live music, you were involved in putting on concerts again, art exhibitions. So it was almost as if the selling of a pint was secondary to everything else that was going on in the pub. So that made it, I mean, I was there 11 years, I was there. So, but then, as I say, I thought, well, no, if I'm going to do this is the time to do it. So I would always say to anybody that maybe has a wee twinkle in the back of their head or a wee idea, never think you're too old to do it. You know, give it a go, because you'll always regret not giving it a go. And you never know what might happen. As long as you get the right people around you, and that's where I was lucky.
What would you have said? Like, was there a point? Like, what made you like just go for it then? Like, was there anything that happened, or was it just?
No, I think it was because I was touching 60, and I went, if I don't do this now, I'll never do it.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do it while I still had the energy, and touch wood, I've got my health, and for some reason I've still got loads of energy, and so I didn't want to wait till it was too late.
Yeah.
And I was in a lucky position where, with working in hospitality so long, nearly everybody knew me. Whether it's a good thing in pubs or not, I don't know. But so I knew they were going to give me as much support.
Yeah.
So then it was a matter then of just making sure that I was surrounding myself with the right people to make it work.
Yeah.
Because all the other business that I'd done, I tried to do them myself. Yeah. And that's why they didn't work, because I took everything on. Where I went at this time, I went, this is going to be my last chance. So I need to surround people that are experts in what they do, which will play a big part in it being a success. And I made a massive point of doing that. So now it took a wee bit more time, and there was a lot of ups and downs with that as well. But the team that I've ended up with, you could not wish for better people.
Yeah.
You were saying earlier about how in the industry of like selling alcohol, it's like mostly like rich people who've like created alcohols and stuff. But what like how do you go about actually creating that? Like, what's the first step? Like, do you make your bottle or?
Well, the gin itself, believe it or not, I knew what Jawbox had to taste like. Right. And it was, I had a couple of sort of favourite gins, and I was going, well, I really like that, but I've had a wee bit more junior in it, or if it was a wee bit more spice in it. So I could actually taste what Jawbox needed to taste like. But I'm not a distiller, never got on to be a distiller, so I knew I had to pass that on to the distiller that was going to eventually end up working with. And I ended up, I call him the Jesus of gins. The man is just, he's an absolute genius. He can turn, the reason I call him Jesus of gins is because he turns water into gins. And Graham Miller out in Acklandville, he's the nicest guy you could ever wish to meet. He's got the patience of a saint, because obviously it's going to take a while. Yeah. And the one thing that was said from the very, very start about Jawbox, we're not going to do anything, half measured, or everything's going to, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing right. Yeah. And that was so important, because we went, we're not going to bring this out. It was never about making money. It was about bringing out a really amazing product that we could all be proud of. Yeah. And when I got the four of us that own Jawbox now, every one of them is as passionate about the brand and excited about the brand, even to this day. So that brought an excitement to the whole project, which was brilliant. So I'd met a few other peat distillers and stuff before, and they were brilliant, don't get me wrong. Everybody I met was amazing. But it just, I don't know, they seemed to lack a bit of passion. Yeah. And it seemed to be very much spreadsheets and a business. Mm-hmm. Whenever I met Shane out in Acklandville, he was the only one that said, don't want to talk about money, it's about the liquid first. Yeah. Let's get the liquid right. Yeah. And that blew me away. That was amazing, because that was somebody who had the same mindset as myself. It was all about the quality and about the taste, and was prepared to give it the time to work on it. You were saying about the bottle. Yeah. I had seen the bottle, just going through catalogues. It was a French company. Yeah. And they had a very, which was the original bottle of Jawbox, which is very plain, but more or less that same size and shape. This one now is our own bespoke bottle, so we have added a wee bit more detail to it, and then it's embossed with a Belfast cut and the Jawbox Birds Company, and it's just a better quality glass, and that took a couple of years for us to get to that stage. Yeah, because that's obviously quite expensive, getting the molds made and stuff like that. So that was all part of the process of how the brands developed and become better and better, and all the wee tweaks that you make. Yeah. So, but a funny story about the bottle. I was carrying the bottle about when I was meeting people, and Richard Ryan, who's in charge of all the branding and design, and again, like Richard will turn around and he say, no, I just colour in, but the guy's just, he's a visionary, like he's absolutely amazing, and he'll work, he designed the Dead Rabbit in New York. He's designed some of the top bars in London, and he does design for some of the top spirit brands as well. And so I'd said to him, never in a million years am I going to try and tell you your job, because I know I could not wish to be working with a better guy. I says, but there's one thing I won't be moved on. It has to be this bottle.
Yeah.
So this was the plainer version of that one. And he went, oh, is that right? When he went over to his desk, I will never ever forget this. He went over to his desk, opened his drawer, and lifted out the same bottle. And literally the hairs in the back of my neck just stood up, and he went, I had sort of promised myself the next project to work on, I wanted to use this bottle.
It's fate
And
then.
you just get this feeling, this is right.
Yeah,
This-
it's meant to
and
be.
he meant to be working with these guys.
Yeah.
And then Stephen, who looks after all the distribution and marketing side, I mean, he's so well respected in what he does that once he goes to people, like the supermarkets and the wine work, they're prepared to go, because they understand and they appreciate and they trust in his expertise. So then when he went to them and said, look, I've got this new gin that we're bringing onto the market, will you give it a go? And they trusted him
Yeah.
because of the working relationship that he had built up with them over the years. So to get people like that behind you, I suppose the best way to describe it, it was almost like a dragon den.
Yeah.
Because I never could have got it to the doors of Tesco's and Sainsbury's and Asda. Stephen done all that. Richard got all the marketing, the design. I mean, the only thing I had said about the design and that is one, obviously Jawbox, because it's a single name, it's got a bit of a backstory to it, and it's one word that's easy to remember.
Yeah.
And any time when I was working in the bars, when you looked on the shelf, a lot of the new gins coming out were very intricate in their design and they were complicated looking.
Yeah.
And you could hardly make out what they were called.
Yeah.
So you're never going to ask for it. And I don't even know if you can say this now, because you have to be so careful what you say. But I wanted it to be a bit blokey.
Yeah.
I didn't want it to be a gin that a fellow would be afraid to ask for.
Yeah.
So it's almost whiskey looking
Yeah.
in its design.
That's one thing we said to you, like when we met you, was the stands out from the shelves.
Yeah.
Anybody, whenever it started to come out, all reps from other drinks companies and which it says when you walk into a bar and you look at the shelf, the first thing you'll see is Jawbox.
Yeah.
I feel like there was like a stage, like when I don't know if it only came out, but like all my family would have been talking about it, like, and they were drinking it, and I was like, oh, have you tried Jawbox yet? No. I'd say the bottle had a big part to do with it.
I know.
Totally, yeah.
One thing I noticed is, like, obviously I wouldn't be a gin drinker, but to me it's a very recognisable brand.
Yeah.
But it seems to me like it's been on the shelves forever, like from the whole.
That
from
was
my
part of the
pub.
reason of that design, and it looks. That's what it said. He's going to want something that looks as if it's been sitting on the shelf 50 years.
Yeah.
And during like when normal times, I would have done played a small part in the Belfast gin joint. So it's a tour you go on. I think it's 60 quid or something, but you're brought around 6 or 7 different bars. And in each bar you go into, you get a different gin cocktail.
Yeah.
And then you'll get the story of that gin that the cocktail's made from.
Yeah.
And then in 2 of the bars you get a wee snack. So it's brilliant value for money. Whenever it starts up again, my God, don't miss it. And so I would have, the bar which was Bullet that done the Jawbox bit,
Yes.
I would have went down and give a wee talk about Jawbox. Basically just the exact same that I'm saying to you. But it was brilliant because you were talking to people who wanted to know and were excited, and at the end of it you would sort of talk to people individually just as they were sort of finishing off their drink, and there was this wee old man there, I would say would have been in his 80s. So he came up to me at the end and I said, well, do you enjoy it? Do you enjoy your drink and all? And he says, I did some, but you were wrong on one thing. And I says, what was that? He says, you said, now this is a couple of years ago, he says, you said there that Jawbox is only 3 years old. And I said, that's right, it is. He said, no, son. He says, I've been drinking that for years. And that's that proved that the brand worked.
Yeah.
You know, and it looked as if it's always been there.
Yeah.
And that was one of the nicest compliments. Well, one being called son when you're near 60 yourself, and then just the wee man saying it. I just thought that's lovely.
Yeah.
Because it has become, and what I love, now we all thought the Jawbox would have been a very sort of strict 35 and above.
Yeah.
In Lavery's and in the Parlour Bar, that's their top selling gin.
Yeah.
So all the young people have went for it.
Yeah.
It seems to have created its own sort of.
How long has it been out?
It was 5 years.
And it was in the public this 5 years, or did it take maybe?
Oh no, like there was a good year working on it. Well, I was working on it a couple of years before that, maybe even a bit more. But once we got everybody together, there was a year in development, just under a year in development, and then it's been in the shops now for 5 years in February.
Yeah.
So it was. So it was 22nd of February, 2016.
What are you looking at me for?
It's a same like, but like it just seems like when it came out, you know, there was this whole big popularity around gin or something.
I'll be honest with you, whenever I first had the idea and I was sort of trying to throw the idea off mates and that, and every one of them said to me, don't be doing gin, nobody drinks gin anymore.
Yeah.
But I had to do it because it was gin that I liked. If I had done a whiskey, I wouldn't have had the same passion. You know, if I had done a craft beer, I wouldn't have had the passion, you know. So
you wouldn't have put the hours in.
You obviously have to believe in what you're doing.
And
so it had to be gin.
Do you feel like you might have had a part in that sort of boom of like the gin recently?
But that was all due to quality control. So I felt it my obligation to go around different bars and try it just to make sure.
So what in your professional opinion of being the guy who is responsible for the bottle, what sets your gin apart? Like what is the taste that you want? Like, so for anybody who maybe hasn't tried Jawbox Gin, what can they expect?
Well, I think the main thing is there's a lot of juniper in it, so it's a very juniper forward gin. There's a wee bit of spiciness to it, and that, when I say spicy, I don't mean as in heat, but you just get that wee, because most
kick
of the tonic, and you'll get that, and then at the end there's a lovely citrus freshness, but it's very, first and foremost, it's a very juniper forward gin, because what I thought at the time, and any of the gins that I was tasting and trying, I went, they're going really light on the juniper there. And as I was saying to you, like, I mean, I knew what Jawbox had to taste like before Jawbox ever existed, even before I had the bottle. I knew what Jawbox had to taste like. So whenever eventually we agreed that Actonville was going to be distilling it, and we're working in partnership with Actonville with it, whenever I sat down with Graham, the master distiller, and I said, Graham, I know what this tastes like, but how do I pass that on to you so that you know how we get the end product? So we just sat and talked, he took notes, and then he says, right, come back 2-3 weeks time, I'll have a batch done, and then we'll take it from there, because obviously you need, you know, your that's your foundation spark to work from. And I think it was on the 15th blend that, and it was like everything had just came together then, because as soon as I tasted it, it was just like everything just, and without even saying a word, the two, he knew as well, because the two of us just looked at each other, and we just knew that's it.
That's the one.
So the recipes in a sealed envelope, in a hidden safe somewhere.
But does it not feel really like humbling, the fact that, like, not to be sort of morbid or anything, but to know that, like, you have a legacy, like, that's left on? Do you know what I mean?
Oh
like,
my God,
where like after everything is said and done, like, you know, people are still going to be drinking Jawbox Gin. It's still going to be one of the because that's one thing I thought was weird, because the maybe a good way to sort of segue onto the tins was that I was at a wedding there like 2 weeks ago, and someone came and it was like sort of bring your own bottle type thing, and there was at least 4 or 5 people with the Jawbox tins. Like, the tables were just scarred in them, and I thought to myself, that's mad, like, because I sort of said, I had a pint with that guy like a few weeks ago, you know what I mean? I know him.
I say that as well. Anyway, I know him.
But, like, sort of the tins then, was that sort of like a segue in terms of, did you feel like there as like sort of owner, did you feel like there was more to do with the brand, that there was more to do with it?
No, I'll be honest with you now, I mean, everything that happens with Jawbox now, it's done as a team effort, and it's all of us together. So before the tins and after the Jawbox Classic, then we brought out the 2 liqueurs. So we've got the rhubarb and ginger and the pineapple and ginger. Just what came out after the gin itself, the classic gin, with everybody here having a sweet tooth and that.
Yeah.
We brought out the clears, so we've got the rhubarb and ginger liqueur, locally sourced rhubarb, and then the pineapple and ginger with locally sourced pineapples. So we get them from Tesco's and and they fly out.
Yeah.
Because everybody here's got a sweet tooth.
Yeah.
But they're only 20%.
Yeah.
So they're brilliant for putting a dice in a glass of prosecco, or just neat with ice, or just lemonade or soda, whatever.
Yeah.
Lovely again with ginger ale. And those are flying out, particularly during the summer now. The pineapple one, that just flies out. So they've been going now for about 2.5, maybe even 3 years now. They've been out, and those proved to be huge, massive success.
Yeah.
But again, that was all the four of us working together. And that's everything that comes out now. It's all our ideas get in, and then those ideas are developed from that.
Yeah.
The tins, I've always wanted to do them. How the tins came about. Any time that I was doing sampling up in Tesco's, or you would see people coming in, and particularly during the summer, and they were just buying trays off them.
Yeah.
And I would say to people, that's only, some of them are only 2.5%.
Yeah.
The majority are around 4 or 5. And I said, why are you buying all them?
Yeah.
Pure convenience.
Yeah.
Because you put them in the fridge, if you're having a barbecue or a picnic, or just mates over, you just have one out of the fridge and drink it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are actually nervous about buying a bottle of alcohol, or, spirit, because they don't know what to do with it, and they're afraid of not pouring enough. So there's people that just wouldn't buy.
Yeah.
They think that's what you go into a bar for.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
That's like me. Whenever you came in here, made me pour that drink, and I was sweating beads.
So there is that, people tend maybe to stay away from buying a bottle of spirit. So, but I say, with those, now once again, we decided if we're going to do this, it has to be better than anything else out there.
Yeah.
And we want it to be a wee bit different as well.
Yeah.
So as we're drinking here, the Jawbox and Ginger, which is our signature serve.
Yeah.
So the first one we brought out was the tins of Jawbox and Ginger.
Yeah.
That's we call it the perfect swerve. So you're swerving away from the normal, which is a gin and tonic. Now later on we may bring out a gin and tonic one, and there's a rhubarb one, and then there's the tins of the pineapple.
Yeah.
Because they're just for the summer. You can't beat it.
Yeah.
Would you have like a favorite out of, say, your range? Like, would you have your own favorite combination?
That's my first pouring. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
I must admit, the wee tins of Jawbox and Ginger are lovely.
Yeah.
Really, really lovely.
Yeah.
But I'd rather just I'd do a proper.
And what would be your drink like? Gin and
ginger. It's always been my drink.
Oh, yeah.
I'm colourblind, by the way, so if I ask this, don't shout at me. But is there like the new tins? Is like an orangey, like sort of pinky one? There's like a sunrisey type. Yeah, there's like a sunrisey type colour.
Like
what flavour? Yeah, I had that.
Because you've pineapple.
Yeah, because someone had it there like the other day at that wedding, and I thought, oh, give me a sip of that. Yeah. I know that guy. Give me a sip of that. He was like, yeah, no problem. It was refreshing, like, because it was a nice sunny day. Like.
I mean, if you're having a barbecue or just a picnic,
and
you've got them in a cool box or just straight from your fridge, it's the sheer convenience. And as I say, they're 5%, so that you're not going to wake up and they're not going to do you any damage really, unless you pour another gin into it, which is.
And moving on from the tiny tins to now this big whopper of a one out in the
yes, the biggest bottle of gin in the world.
That's madness. How much was it? 32 bottles of standard gin or something?
No, it's about 48.
Oh, sorry, 48.
So it's 32 litres.
That's
32
mad.
litres. And no, I'll be honest, it sort of started off, and this was pre-COVID. About doing maybe an April Fool. And my initial idea was, we'll get a big giant blow up, or a big, like they look like the cardboard cutouts. And then we'll get a couple of guys, and if you photographed it right, it would look as if these guys were carrying this big giant bottle. And with the observatory being the tallest cocktail bar in Ireland, I thought, well, that's perfect. We'll bring it up there. I got in touch with Julie Hastings from Hastings. She was all on board, but thought it was brilliant. But then Stephen thought, oh, why don't we do it for real? At the minute, which I to be honest, I find very strange, but we've all looked into this. The record is held at the minute by a gin called Silent Pool.
Right.
And I think it's a 12-litre bottle.
Right.
So if you
that's not.
well, that's,
That's child's play.
it's still very big, and their bottle's taller and thinner. So the
Yeah.
bottle's fairly tall.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful hand painted bottle. I would never take anything away from them.
But yours is nicer.
But it's not that big, really.
Yeah.
So because of the whole logistics, the thing, because of the shape of the bottle, you have to go up in certain segments.
Yeah.
So the one after the 32 litres would have been too big.
Yeah.
So because of the time you multiply everything up, so it's just the perfect size. Now obviously it's too big and too heavy when there's gin in it to pour, gin from.
Yeah.
So there's a wee bit of theatre to it then, and how the gin's drawn from the bottle is a thing called a dipping dog. And a dipping dog is basically a copper tube which is closed off at one end,
Right.
Yeah.
and then open at the other end, which a wee cork goes in. And how they came about was back in the open days when guys would have worked in distilleries
Yeah.
and they had a mate who was a plumber. They would have said to their mate, look, get a wee bit of copper pipe for us, close it off and put it on a chain.
Right.
So whenever they were finishing work in the distillery, when they were going home, when they were walking by the cask, they would have dipped this in and they would have stole like a wee half bottle of whiskey they would have, and then that just went under. So the dog bit comes
That's
from man's
class.
best friend,
Right.
and then it's dipping, so dipping dog. So that's how the gin's drawn from the big bottle, and then it's used. So it's used for their cocktail, which is called the Jonathan's Twist, and how it came about was when we're going to work along with the tourist board and that for the Embrace the Gin Spirit, we decided then to go with the story of the Cave Hill.
Yeah.
And Jonathan Swift apparently got the inspiration for Gulliver's Travels each time he was travelling up and down the Antrim Road.
Right.
And he would look up and he went, that's just like a big sleeping giant. So the giant bottle, and then it's set over at the window,
Yeah.
and there's a wee story on the window about Gulliver's Travels and Jonathan Swift, and you just see the mountain behind the bottle.
Yeah.
So we've done this wee story where the giant bottle is waiting for when the giant awakens.
Yeah.
So, and it all seemed to blend in together, and
Yeah.
then that's how the cocktail got the name Jonathan.
How many floors did it travel? Because that's one thing I would say. That's a glass bottle, like.
It's made of glass.
Oh, it's made of glass, yeah, it's handmade.
Holy moly.
So I went up in the lift, and I went up.
God
empty.
love the person who had to
And
help
then-
carry that.
No, I went up empty.
I know.
What does it
Bill.
weigh? Empty? Do you know?
50, empty. Well, it's 50 kilos with the gin in
Jesus
it,
Christ.
so you wouldn't want to drop that.
No, you would not.
Flipping
like.
hell.
The guy, I must admit, I was a wee bit nervous.
Were you overseeing the whole thing?
Well, there was a wee group of us because
Aye.
I was there when we were doing the video.
If I'd have been there, I'd have been like, lads, here, don't
It
drop
is,
that.
yeah, it is a wee bit, because see, it's a complete one-off.
Aye.
Yeah.
There was no mould made or anything.
Yeah.
It was all made by hand. So, yeah.
How long did it take to
That would
make?
be a brilliant entrance for you and like a party or something, like this big Jawbox bottle
Yeah,
comes
you'd be there for
wheeling
it,
in and
wouldn't
then you just pop
I
out.
think it would be like the guy that walks in with a guitar who's always the most popular person at a party. They would just go, nah, it's back. Where's this
Put
bottle?
him to shame.
No, I must admit it's very, very
Yeah.
impressive. So it is. I am over the moon with it. But I love the whole sort of association we've done with the Giants in Belfast City, and it makes it much more deeper, and it involves Belfast. I'm really, really passionate about Belfast. Always have been, and to bring that in, the story in, a lovely story about the city.
Yeah.
I'm really sort of over the moon about.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing, like when you're sort of looking at, you sent me a few articles and stuff about interviews and stuff that you'd done before, and then obviously listen to other podcasts you've done. I think that's the thing that you do seem to have a genuine passion about, like people in Belfast, and the whole thing about, I think you were saying, was it on the Best Belfast podcast where you'd say that a lot of Jawbox is attributed to like bringing other people on and then sort of intertwining with other people, and then obviously during your lunch period, you had like the pictures of like bartenders around Belfast and stuff. So like, what has that always been something you've from working in a bar or like? Yeah.
I mean, if you ask anybody, anybody at all, what to say one of their favourite things is about Belfast, you're guaranteed. If it's not their, no, you're guaranteed. If it's not their first answer, it'll be their second, and it's the people. We are undoubtedly, even with the problems that we have here, one of the friendliest cities in the world. Like I've seen it, I've done it myself, where there's tourists in town, and they're looking at a map or whatever. Like, if you go and say, "He's all right," or "You lost," or and if they're looking for somewhere, instead of pointing them, you would nearly bring them.
I know.
And if it's a pub, you'll bring them in and buy them a pint.
Aye.
You know, we have this unbelievable. That's why I think we, without any doubt, that we have the best hospitality in the world.
Yeah.
And that's why so many Belfast guys go out, the likes of America and Australia, and do really, really well.
Yeah.
Because it's just natural to us. But you're right. I mean, whenever the whole story behind Jawbox when it was first launched was we didn't get models or anything. And if you look at some of the old photos, you'll know they weren't models. But they were all mates of mine who worked within hospitality. So the tagline then was, I think, a celebration of character. And it was all people who work in some way or another within hospitality. And we used them in all the posters. And they made my favourite one. I don't know if, you know, a singer-songwriter called Wolfie McGrath. Or Wolfie Gilbert. And Wolfie just has this face, and he's a wee cap on, he's a wee googie beard, and it's an outstanding image. Absolutely outstanding image. I love it. I mean, to this day, that's still my favourite image of Jawbox, because that was really the birth of Jawbox. And I can remember it was launched on the Tuesday night in Lindenhall Library, and it was the worst night that you could ever imagine. It was bucketing out of the heavens, the wind, it was a gale. And I knew I couldn't launch Jawbox in a pub, because if I was to launch it in a pub, all the other pubs would have went, well, why'd you do it in mine? So I didn't want to upset anybody. I was only starting out, and I knew this needs to go really smooth. So that's why I picked Lindenhall Library, because I'd done a lot of research there about old Belfast. And it's a place that I love anyway and would have went to quite often. So went in there. I don't think they were too keen initially when I asked them.
Drinking in the library.
They didn't do drinking. And it's a really, honestly, if you've never been, just call in. It's just, if you ever wanted to find anything about Belfast, that's where to go. So I went back this day and I said, the Lord Mayor of Belfast is going to launch Jawbox Gin for me. And they went, oh, that's amazing. It's a civic event. Yes.
No problem.
When do you want to do it? And I went, got the date and all in, and then walked out of the library and went, shit, how am I going to get the Lord Mayor of Belfast? So I walked straight over to City Hall and walked in, went up to the desk, and I says, would there be any chance of talking to the Lord Mayor? And the wee woman called Lover, she more or less just said, well, it doesn't really work like that. You have to make an appointment and all. But they were brilliant. It was Arthur Hughes at the time, and he was absolute gentleman. And he came over and he done it. He was doing an event in City Hall, so it was thankfully only across the road from him. But he took the time out, and he says, the only thing that I won't do for you. I says, what's that? He says, I don't drink gin, so don't ask me to drink gin. You can buy me a bottle of brandy. So no, he was brilliant. And to have the Lord Mayor of Belfast launch here, and that was the Tuesday, and on the Wednesday, it would have been the Wednesday, I went to the Woodworkers beside Lavery's, because I like it in there. My mates, they would drink all the craft beers, and that was the first time I seen it sitting on a shelf behind a bar, and literally you just get this. It was like, and there was guys come up behind me, and they went, I give us 2 of them Jawbox, sir. So I'm sitting and I'm going, sure, don't make it take yours. Just don't say nothing. So my mate Pedro, he nods me, and I turned around and I went, let's get them lads. I'll get them for you lads. You know, dead on, cheers mate. And then he just turned around and he went, oh, there's 4 of us. So I don't do that again anymore. But I mean, I was out on Saturday, and just hearing, maybe I pick up on it because if you hear somebody saying, but see somebody, I still get an amazing buzz
I'm sure
when I
that's
hear
so
people
surreal.
asking for it. And it's just, because to me that's people parting, because I know it's not cheap because it is made in small batches. Like the bigger names like Gordon's and all the big name gins, they're mass produced, so they can sell them. That is literally handmade and made in very small batches. And for people, they're hard-earned cash to part with that money to buy something, when they could buy something £2 or £3 cheaper. It's I still find it amazing. I get tremendous.
You were telling me in Ross a good story, like you were in House Belfast, I thought was class, and the girls came in and were looking.
Oh, the Honeycomb.
Yeah, do you want to tell that? I thought that was a class story. Like.
The Honeycomb actually took a life of its own. The manager at that time of Muriel's Bar, really very very popular gin bar, so people go there to get gins, and Avril, whenever it first came out, wanted to do a serve that nobody else was doing, and at that time she was already making her own honeycomb. So she went, Jawbox ginger ale honeycomb, we squeeze the lime, that'll be, nobody else will be doing that, and she done wee thin shards of honeycomb, and it did look amazing. But then everybody started to go crazy for the honeycomb, and even to this day, I mean, people are still going about job. Me personally, I just find it too sweet, so I don't like it. But then people started saying, "Oh, he's getting into bars and telling bars you're not allowed to serve it." I wouldn't dream of doing that in my life. Because I was in a bar once, and there was a girl asked. I was sitting at the bar. The barman didn't know me from Adam, and the girl asked, "It's called a jawbreaker." And the girl asked for 2 jawbreakers. And the wee barman says, "No, we're not allowed to sell them." So I sort of looked at him, and the girl says, "What are you talking about?" She says, "Well, the guy that invented Jawbox doesn't allow us to sell them." So I didn't want to embarrass him in front of this woman. So we waited till she was away. Now she ended up, she just got something else, and then the wee barman, I called him over and I says, "You don't mind me asking, who told you that the guy that made Jawbox doesn't allow people to drink up honeycomb?" "Oh, our boss told us and we're not allowed. He said, "Well, I'm the guy that invented Jaw." I don't care if they put Coca-Cola in it, as long as they enjoy it. So
it's like an undercover boss moment where you're like,
I know,
surprise, it's me.
So, no, I personally, I just find it too sweet, but it took on a life of its own. To the point we're in. This is just one of the other things that happened. We're in the house bar in Botanic Avenue. So we were just sitting having a drink at the bar when you could sit and have a drink at the bar.
Cool days.
I miss it desperately. I can't wait to really back at the bar. And these nicely 2 girls come in, and then they were joined later on, so they'd asked for the jawbreakers. And instantly, now the barman knew who I was, so he looks at me as if, "What do you think?"
It's going to be alright.
Nothing to do with me. I'm out for a drink. He said, "It's up to you, but give the girl whatever she wants." So she asked it, and I said, I don't have any honeycomb. So the girls, we were looking forward to him. We were really looking forward to him. We'll go somewhere else. So I turned around and I said, "Look, I tell you what, Russell's across the street sell tubs of honeycomb. If I go over and buy you a couple of tubs of honeycomb, you happy enough to stay here?" He said, "Oh God, why would you do that for us?" And it turned out it was Shane Todd's girlfriend.
Seriously?
So I went over, got the tubs of, it ended up, I think there was 10 or 12 of them. So they stayed on then, and I ended up drinking a couple of bottles of it. Jesus. Where if they hadn't got the honeycomb, they would have went somewhere else. So I always say to any, not even just Jawbox, if you're spending your good money to buy a drink at a bar, it's up to you what way you enjoy it. If you want to put Coca-Cola in Jawbox or any drink, that's up to you. And that's what you enjoy. And who is anybody to question, how you enjoy your drink? Like, I used to be annoyed people putting orange cordial in pints of Guinness, but I would never say to them, or blackcurrant.
I seen that one.
And you'd look at them and go,
You wonder where the rumours come from.
Oh, I'm sure there's other stories out there that
the boy who owns Jawbox is giving people a hiding on the streets. He's drinking.
That's the
oh my God.
That's the thing about Belfast. It might be like nice around here, but the rumours get around. So
oh my God. And it is. I mean, it is a village. There's no doubt. Belfast may be a city, but it's a city with a village attitude. But I mean, I love it because never would I take a walk from flat into town and not sell a load of maybe 10, 15 people.
Yeah.
And that's not just me. That's everybody. Everybody seems to know about
that
it.
the-
Most of them do love that.
Is that the main thing you like about Belfast, or is there like a particular reason? That's because you were sort of saying that you enjoy traveling and all, but what would be the main thing?
I love coming
Yeah.
home, so when I get away.
What would
Travelling
be-
is my after Jawbox and the gin, and it's my absolute passion. Excuse me, but I think I was brought up in Belfast during the really bad trouble times,
Yeah.
and to see Belfast coming out of that and still seeing that there's love and friendship in this city,
Yeah.
and the vast majority of people really care about the city. Now we've still got a long way to go, and know that, but we've come so far. I honestly believe we're never going to go back to those days.
No.
And it's just when you see, for me, my way of thinking is, for Belfast to get to where it is today, it's people like Niall McKenna, Michael Dean, Pat O'Donnell, all the people that own bars and restaurants.
Yeah.
I couldn't sit and name them all, but they have made the city what it is,
Yeah.
and they've built it up. And even during the worst of times, they were still investing. Like even during COVID, when the bars had to close down and the restaurants, the vast majority of the people, instead of moaning and sort of going, we're done, we're beat out, what they done was they started doing their premises up and giving it a fresh lick of paint, so that when they did reopen, people were going, this place is looking brilliant.
Yeah, a lot of that goes unrecognised too, like the effort put in, like behind the scenes and stuff like that.
And then all the outside spaces now as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, the city's actually come out of it a wee bit better.
Definitely.
But as I say, just can't wait to stand at the bar, man, and talking to people.
Yeah.
I don't like, unless there's a crowd, I was obviously go to a table, but
Yeah.
I love walking into a bar, talking to the bar staff, standing at the bar, and so I genuinely really do miss it.
Yeah. I think that was one of the things that sort of, I wouldn't say it surprises, but like it kind of, whenever we were chatting to you about coming on the podcast and you were sort of saying, let's go have a drink or something, I was like, this is normally people are like barely even want to come on, or they're like yeah, no, grand, I'll maybe meet you there, whereas you were more like, let's go have a pint. Now it's like, you flip me, fair enough.
Also for a pint, that was the first pint I had, it was the first one I had in ages.
Should be honoured.
I know.
Us, not you.
What would be like one of your favourite bars to go on in Belfast? Do you have like, I suppose you probably can't say.
Rather than name pubs, because that wouldn't be fair. And then
Have to be neutral.
Pulled about it, but I love proper pubs.
Yeah.
Bars and the TVs blurring in the background.
Like old fashioned type of pub.
Just a really good, like the likes of Kelly Sellers, Bittles Bar, the Gerrys, Sunflower, the American Bar. Those are all great pubs. Madden's is like
you're giving out dust when you went out for a drink, are you? Because we hadn't been to all these places.
I know, but these are the real pubs. Now at the minute they've lost, because if I go to a pub, I'm not really going to a pub for the drink. You're going for the crack and the socialising and the stories you're going to hear and the people you're going to meet. So the pint's almost secondary to that.
Yeah.
Now obviously it's a wee bit unnatural getting on at the minute, because you can't. If you see somebody, you can't really just dander over them and go, what about you? And you're told to sit at a table. And now my heart goes out to the bar staff that have to do that, because they don't enjoy doing that either. And they're losing all the contact at the bar.
Yeah.
So I mean, with all the table service, I mean, part of the fun of being a barman and going to bars is having people sitting at the bar and they're looking at all the drinks in the bar and they're going, I've never tried that before, what's that? And that's part of your day.
Yeah.
Where now it's almost like an office job.
Yeah.
Where you're administrating who gets what drink.
That's one thing I noticed, because we all went out there like last weekend, and we stopped in at that pub. Well, it wasn't a pub, it was like the wee hotel place. Like we were waiting for more to open down in Portrush, and we stopped in at the Atlantic Hotel. And the barman was really nice, but like there was a few times I think me and you got up to order a second round of drinks, and he kind of said, lads, you wouldn't mind putting a mask on. And then he followed up and he was like, I'm really sorry to have to tell you this. And you're thinking to yourself, like me and you were like, it's all right, like it's our fault, like, do you know what I mean, and put our mask on. But then I kind of sat back down and thought, like, it does put a dampener on everything.
Oh, totally.
Especially when you feel you too.
Now it's interesting, in England 19th everything changes.
Apparently so.
People wear masks.
Social
you can
distancing
stand
out the
at-
window.
At the bar, being pubs are just nightclubs are all everything's just
Is that
back to
19th of
normal.
July?
Yeah,
From
19th
the
of
19th
July.
of July.
Seriously?
Yeah,
That's
in England.
not. I didn't even know that.
Optional, yeah.
So
I think it came out today or something.
yeah, he just
Yeah.
announced it
Just
today.
announced it,
Because
yeah.
basically, they're changing it now, and what they're saying is, we're going to have to live with this.
Yeah.
So it's a matter
Yeah.
of just use your common sense. I mean, I don't enjoy wearing a mask.
Yeah.
I'll wear it if it makes somebody else feel comfortable.
Yeah.
I'll always ask if you prefer to wear a mask. I'd rather not wear one.
Yeah.
So I can't wait till we don't have to wear
99% or maybe 97% of people though are kind of just waiting. I think most people I've talked to, maybe more of a younger sort of generation are more like, nah, let's just get back to normal.
Yeah.
It's like everyone's
And
fed up.
I like it's more now. It's more or less about. Obviously, I appreciate people's health is like one of the number one important things, keeping people alive and keeping people healthy and all. But at the same time, then you look at people. It's like mental health, where like
Totally.
someone like yourself who loves to go out to a pub and all is more like you're being robbed of that.
Yeah.
Not robbed, but like
Well, I mean, I think maybe as I mentioned to you when I was speaking to you before, my biggest worry was it's the wee old man
Yeah.
Yeah.
who has his wee regime where he goes out.
Yeah.
They're not going out for a mad night. They may go out and have a wee Bushmills or a Pars and a pint of Guinness
And read
they'll
the
talk to their
newspaper.
mates,
Yeah.
read the newspaper, and then go home.
It's
Yeah.
a routine,
And that
yeah.
was taken away from them.
yeah,
And maybe that could have been because whenever I worked in the bars and we started a new barman, and the wee young fella might say, "Oh, how do lads do in my head?" and whatever.
Yeah.
And I would say that conversation that wee man's having with you might be the only person he speaks to today.
Mm-hmm.
So never underestimate how important that is to him, and give him that time and the
Yeah.
space. And those were the people that I was really worried about because that was completely taken away. I'm all right, I'm still young enough yet, and I've got mates, and and you'll work around things.
Yeah.
But for the wee old man that might have lost his wife and his family's all
Yeah.
moved away,
yeah,
that could be their only social
Social,
interaction all day.
Yeah.
And I think there is going to be a tsunami of mental health problems at the end of this, and
Yeah.
that's when the real problem's going to start. So hopefully they'll be able to
Yeah.
sort them out.
But then I suppose the best way to sort of ask is you've done whenever we were talking to you, you were kind of a bit like there's things happening but I can't tell you. And me and Thomas were like, you'll tell us, like, go on ahead. But like, is there anything now that because obviously if you're running a business, it's like you get to sort of these milestones where like probably the tins and then the big massive bottle. Is there anything now that you're sort of working towards, or
Well, we always have things in development.
yeah,
Now I'll be honest with you, the jam bottle and the tins, they were really due to come out pre-COVID.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they didn't come out because
Yeah.
they would have come out about a week before COVID. So that would have all been lost, and you couldn't have really relaunched them again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were able to hold on to that, and then that was a brilliant time to do them because people were starting to feel a wee bit better about themselves and everything. So, and then the big bottle came out as hospitality was reopening, so the timing of that was perfect.
Yeah.
So that's how they come out when they did. We're working on other maybe flavours, maybe doing a flavoured gin rather than a gin liqueur.
Right. Okay.
But the guys out in the distillery, they're always working in development with things that we may sort of do in the future that you're still not going to get out.
Yeah. Pour him another gin there, do we?
Well, maybe I'll tell you. No, I try and keep them. I mean, my God, see the big bottle. I had to keep my mouth shut for over a year.
Yeah.
That was not easy. That was
Big
that was
secret.
one of the hardest things because it was busting to tell people.
Yeah.
And then I was sort of throwing wee hints, but not wanting to give too much away. And it was brilliant whenever that actually happened.
Yeah.
So it was, but I was glad I did keep it because then we didn't lose any impact with it,
Yeah.
and we didn't
Yeah.
lose the wow factor, which was really, really important.
Yeah. Yeah. So you had a good question, I think, earlier on about what advice or something would you have for like
Oh yeah.
yeah
I don't know.
maybe end on that.
Probably
Right?
this is gonna end on like if there's if you had any advice for anyone like looking to get into business or something, or maybe
Well, the one bit of advice that I've always kept in my head is that if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I always found if you surround yourself with negative people, they're just going to bring you down. and don't listen to negative people. If you surround yourself with people who have expertise in other fields, you're always constantly going to learn, and you should never really stop learning, even if it's just somebody says something you went, geez, I never knew that.
Yeah.
And just surround yourself with people that can bring something else to the project, whatever it is you're doing. And it's amazing how things will move along then. But there'll always be, like, I've met them, people, thankfully only very few, who real downers and go, oh, sure, that'll never last, that's crap.
Yeah.
You know, it's like one of the funniest ones was I was doing sampling in Tesco's, and this wee woman come up and she got like a wee sample of Jawbox and ginger, and I loved sampling Jawbox with ginger because most people's first ever experience of gin is with the gin and tonic, and the chances are maybe not a great gin or a great tonic, so it's really dry and bitter, and it can be unpleasant. So people were sort of expecting it. When people were trying the Jawbox and ginger, they were really amazed it wasn't what they were expecting, and it was really, really pleasant. But this wee woman come up and she stood and she took it and she just goes, that's rotten. Like that's rotten. But she didn't go away, and then she stood. And as I am giving out to her sample to people, she was standing going, she like it? I thought that was rotten. Give me another one, son. Just that. She must have had 5 or 6 she left blocked. But so you learn that there'll always be somebody who'll try and knock you a wee bit. But I found that's part of the journey. I just am immensely proud of what I've achieved, and proud to be associated with the people that, you know, helped me to get to where Jawbox is today. Because without them, I mean, to be honest with you, without the people who go out and part money to go and buy it, that would never be. I mean, I think it's one of the, I mean, it's won quite a few awards. Really important one to me was Best New in the Belfast Business Awards. I won Best New Business because the trophy you get is the Nula with the Hula. You know,
the hula hoop.
So that's the trophy. It's class looking, and I'd been shortlisted for that for other reasons in the bar game, and I'd always wanted to win it. And I used to get say, "Oh, sure, you're always a bridesmaid," and they get up and nobody was allowed to give a speech. I made sure I gave a speech that day because it was. And when I watched the video, I cringe. But it was just an unbelievable feeling to win that award. Jawbox has won loads of awards. The one I suppose I should be most proud of is it won Best Gin in the UK at the Quality Food and Drink Awards. And that was like Grosvenor House Hotel in London. So we never thought we'd win it. I mean, it never in a million years did we think we were going to win it. So I went over, stuck a tux in a suitcase, booked a wee B&B. It's near the Grosvenor House as a could, because you couldn't afford to stay in Grosvenor House. There was, I think it was nearly 1,600 people at the awards. It was unbelievable. I think it's the biggest ballroom in London, in England, obviously. Huge, massive, big event. So I'm sitting at this table with all these people who are all from different English companies, and nobody really being much crack, to be honest with you. And I'm going, right, I can't wait this over I get home. And then I look up, and next thing I see is this, there's this huge big screen, and this giant bottle of Jawbox just comes up. So I thought, well, they're running down, and there'll be a picture of each of the, and then the next thing they called it out, and I went, fuck. So I am like blown away, and it's a lovely trophy. It's a big sort of crystal Q, and came back down to the table. As I say, nobody was really any crack. Like, they were all really nice and all congratulating me, but not a bit of crack. So I had left then, and because I didn't bring anybody with me. It was only me, and I went buzzing to get out and celebrating, and everywhere I went was crap. Like, I mean, like I went into Dorchester. I've never been to Dorchester in my life.
It's carrying this trophy around.
It was just full of undesirables, I think. Because it was near Christmas time. So everybody's at Christmas parties, and I think it was like the end of November, beginning of December the awards were. And
you think they would have done a bit of crack?
Honest to God, I could not wait till I get home. Made up for a dance with it. So no, I mean, it's just it's amazing. I still get a tremendous buzz out of it, and I still enjoy seeing people drinking it, and especially now with the likes of because I don't think it was Instagram whenever we first brought it out, and seeing people putting photos up, and Instagram's also amazing for, you'll see it appearing in bars in New Zealand and
that's
like
mad.
it's really
It's
doing
crazy.
well in Australia.
Yeah.
And then you see all these like Irish bars have all got Jawbox behind the bar. It was used as the welcome drink for the Australian Irish Film Festival.
No
So
way.
there's all wee things like that. Like, to be honest with you, maybe I wouldn't even have known about if it hadn't have been for social
Media.
media.
And that's before Guinness. And like,
Yeah.
jeez, that's
It's-
mad. That's serious achievement. Like.
So no, I mean, it still blows me away a good bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would be? Has there ever been like? What would you say? Has there been like the most surreal moment? Like, has there been anything happen that you're like?
I'm sure there has, and maybe it was that surreal. Either I don't remember it or don't want to remember. No, I don't think there's anything really out of, or what. I'm sure there has been, and it's not coming to mind. Did I say to you before?
No,
Maybe sure thing.
I don't think so. No.
I'm sure there's been loads.
Yeah.
Will there ever be a stage where you were sort of saying to us, and you maybe mentioned it there a wee while ago, about sort of retiring, or if that's that sort of word for you, is sort of taking a step back? Will there ever be a time where you just know the time's now?
It's funny because you do. I mean, as you know, as I was saying to you, my absolute passion after Jawbox is travelling. I love travelling. I've been really lucky, and I've been around most of the world and seen some amazing places. And I want to do more of that, and I want to do it while I still have my health.
Yeah.
Because you need your health. If you're, and I would never enjoy going to like Benidorm or anywhere like that. I love going to places like Vietnam and China and places that you get a culture shock when you go in. That blows me away. So they can be a wee bit more challenging. So you need your health, and you need to be sort of fit to do those. So I don't want to wait till I'm too old to do that. So I know retiring sounds a desperate word, but maybe have more time. And I know that when things was quiet or during COVID and we couldn't do anything, and then when things got a wee bit back to normal and we launched the big battle and we launched the cons, the buzz and the adrenaline you get out of that is unbelievable. And I would be afraid of missing that. But then could I get that from come back to doing the travelling and stuff, So I mean, I'll always be, my name's on the battle, I'll always be connected to Jawbox. That's, no matter what, even if one of the big companies came along and decided that they wanted to buy Jawbox and they made us an offer we couldn't refuse. No matter what happens to Jawbox, I will still always be the founder. You know? And I mean,
and the story behind it as well.
My only damn wish, to be honest with you, and I've said this to my brother-in-law, is I want a wee plaque in the park bench in Botanic Gardens. And that would make me the happiest man in the world. Because I love Botanic Gardens, and I've been going there for all the years I've lived in this area. And just a wee plaque that says, Jawbox Gerry used to sit here and watch the world go by. That would be amazing.
We'll put a shout out to Belfast City Council, make it happen.
Get over
well, no, that's it. I mean, I'm in no hurry for
No, we need this plaque.
I hope it's not for another 20 years.
You'll be walking in 20 years' time, there'll be a big statue.
But, oh God, no, Jesus, no, God. I wouldn't, Ulster, as I say, Ulster suffered enough of it. No, that would be lovely. A wee plaque in the park bench. Just because I look at, I mean, did you ever go to Botanic? And did you ever read any of the wee plaques?
I've walked past a few benches and seen you.
Some of them are really lovely. Some of them are just, a name and just in a wee born and died. But no, I would put a wee story on it. Like, I mean, did you ever read the story in the front of the bottle?
I haven't, no.
Which tells now, sort of, as Jawbox is growing and we get into more countries, a lot of countries that wouldn't mean anything to them. But it's just a wee story back in the day when the door was left unlocked, which I still remember. I don't know, maybe it's like a and I always remember that either the key was left in the door or the door was never locked.
That'd be like my grandparents' house.
Now obviously you're never going to see that now, so and then the reason I'm mad to say the photo on the inside of the bottle, the reason to put that there, that was Belfast's first ever proper gin bar. So it was the first bar It was called the Palace, and it was
Yeah.
the first bar in Belfast, excuse me, to have a proper gin menu and do gin cocktails.
Yeah.
So I thought, you know, it's a part of the Belfast story. It's a part of, you know, it's part of the Jawbox story, and
Yeah.
it's just another nice wee thing
Yeah.
that goes to the story.
Yeah.
One of the best ones and one of the outstanding was Michael D. Higgins.
Yeah.
Absolute gentleman.
Yeah.
But it's just the loveliest wee man. Absolutely really lovely meeting him. And I've been lucky. I've met loads. I
Yeah.
met Kelly Minogue.
Yeah.
Kelly
Fair
Minogue
enough.
was, I met Chico.
Chico, Jesus, that's a thrill.
Chico was brilliant, but he was some crack. I love meeting Chico.
Yeah.
So I know I've been really lucky and met some amazing people.
Yeah.
But the best people you meet are the locals, because they're not, they don't care what to say to you, and they'll be honest with
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
You know, and I love that. I love the honesty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank God, it's probably a good place to end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry
Yeah.
if I...
No, you're alright. You're alright.
Like,
See, I told you I can't do anything. See, when I was walking on that street, oh my God, I nearly turned him back. But
Seriously?
once you get talking, it's right.
that's crazy.
No, I still be the same too. Like, till you get
Yeah.
started on them, like, but once you get going, like,
I think this is coming out at a good time, because I think like there's a lot of people finished uni now and they probably don't know what they want to do, and like I think you're a prime example of like it's never too late, you know, to give something a go, like, and
Even
don't
if
be
you have
worried.
tried stuff and it hasn't maybe worked out in your favour, like, do you know what I mean? And as well as that, I think for younger people, especially around our age, it's nice to have people who like take the time to actually sit down and chat and like share experiences and stuff, because I think that's one thing people need now more than ever, is that we would say this a lot, like the degree that we've done, you only learn so much, and like I definitely don't regret doing the degree, I don't think neither do you, but you only learn so much as opposed to just getting the experience and, you know, learning from other people. So thank you very much for coming on, and wishing you all the
pleasure.
best for Jawbox in the
enjoyed it,
future,
yes.
and if you ever take the time to travel or whatever, sure, enjoy it as much as you can.
Oh yes, I will. I'll definitely make a point
And
of doing that. And
we'll be sure to say the next time when we're in a pub, we were talking to that guy.
Yeah.
When we see your,
And
see
don't
your
worry,
pick
if
up
we
in the
look
bar.
over across and we see anybody adding Honeycomb in the Jawbox, we'll be sure to go over and chuck a glass at them.
if there isn't any, if the barman says
By order of Gerry White.
if the barman says he doesn't have any, go out and bed for him.
But no, thank you very much for coming on.
No,
And
absolute pleasure, lads.